Good evening. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Lori Hopful and I'm running for mayor. 8 years ago, I ran for council because I wanted to make a difference and see a change. I had two platforms, community and financial. Today, our community is in a much better place. I believe our residents are happier and our relationship with our Statliam neighbors has grown in a positive way. Working together is important to the success of our community. Financially, we owed $1.9 million in 2014. We made a lot of hard decisions and learned to live within our means. I believe I was a leader with a strong voice in bringing Lillooet to economic stability. 2022 was the first year in decades that Lillooet has no debt. We now have the financial stability we should have always had. I have been the councillor at the table that wants to discuss the impact of tax increases to the business and to the public sector, and the cumulative effect that tax increases have on all of us year after year. I will continue looking after your hard-earned tax dollars and have the financial accountability that we all deserve. Political leaders need to look within their budget to realign. We need to think outside the box and find innovative ways that Lillooet can continue its path forward. Sustaining our medical clinic, hospital, housing, and recreational services are complex projects, but with the right council, we will succeed. We will always face challenges, but we need to be smart and proactive. We need to ensure this community can afford to live here today and tomorrow. I will demonstrate accountability, leadership, professionalism. I will do my utmost to enhance the infrastructure and services and cultural heritage to help make Lillooet a wonderful place, because this is your home and this is my home. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jennifer Leach, and I am also running for the mayoral seat. 4 years ago, many of you put your faith in me as I ran for council. I didn't know how I would get it done as a mom of young children, but I have a list of accomplishments that I'd like to share. A year into my first term as councillor, I brought the UBCM Child Care Study Grant to council, asking for staff to go ahead and apply for the funds. With much debate and a 3-2 vote, my request was granted. My request was granted. The result of the report caught the attention of the School District 74, and they committed to before and after school childcare. When the East Lillooet Memorial Garden was overgrown with weeds and no money was left in the budget to fund the maintenance, I was the one on council to lean in and get the project off the ground and into something we could all work with. I was the one who had the tough budget conversations with SWIMS and staff, persuading council to allow SWIMS to fundraise and go forth with a year-long pool opening. This has allowed the district to collect the data, the accurate data for costs. The process was not easy, and we now know it did not cost $200,000 to operate that pool, and that staff estimates were highly exaggerated due to lack of data. As a director at large with the Southern Interior Local Government Association, I have sat with my SILGA colleagues from across the interior with ministers and MLAs to bring solution-oriented asks to the province so that we, as local governments, can be better equipped with resources and tools in times of concern. Last year, the Ministry of Public Safety and Solicitor General established the Local Government Policing Modernization Roundtable to consider a set of provincially identified priorities to improve policing. I was handpicked out of many applicants because of my relationships and knowledge of the synergistic relationships between the Lillooet RCMP and Statliam Tribal Police. The roundtable completed with a preliminary draft of the public safety reform, which is available online, but we still have at least a year's worth of work to do, and with your confidence vote, I can see that through. Looking forward, I want to see more support for our development community by having more meaningful consultations to understand the barriers, to continue to create safe spaces for youth by investing and replacing broken infrastructure in our rec center. And, oh, okay, all right.
Could everybody stand? No, just joking. Hi, I'm Bobby Jo Allen. I've lived in Lillooet since I was 14. I graduated high school here. I went away to school and I came back to live, work, and raise my family. In the life that I've lived, Lillooet is where I found my home. I moved a lot and never really had a place that I belonged or felt at home. I'm gonna figure my shit out. Okay, so now coming from anywhere and being surrounded by these mountains gives me a sigh of relief and makes me feel safe. I love this town and I love human beings, and I would be a great advocate for the people in this community. Lillooet has so much to offer with the rich culture of the First Nations people and the people that have worked hard to build this district and the infrastructures such as the rec center and the local hospital. I believe that I would be a good person to stand up and campaign for the people that have needs that are not being met. I'm a nurse in our local hospital and spend a lot of time advocating for more resources for everyone who lives here and wants to be here. Ensuring people have somewhere to go when they are sick or need help is, of course, one of my highest priorities. Ensuring that our community has a heart in the middle of it, somewhere where we can play and our kids can learn skills like skating and swimming that they can take away with them wherever they go. Maybe even learn how to dance in this very gym. A place where we as adults can come and meditate, get strong, grow confident in our abilities to interact with one another. Lillooet is a special and unique place that is going to grow, which I think is great. But we need to keep the richness and uniqueness of this warm, sunny place. It is so important. I wouldn't want to live, work, or raise my children anywhere else. And with my last 15 seconds, I want to recognize the volunteers who do so much and the grassroots organizations that support our beautiful town.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Kevin Anderson. For those that don't know me, I'll give you a little intro. I grew up in Vancouver. I moved here in 1982. My wife and I came up in my 1974 Ford, and the rest of my stuff came up in a boxcar that contained a 1964 Comet that my wife owned. Since then, I've been involved in the community quite a bit. I've been a counselor 4 times. I've been on almost every portfolio that there has been. I was Harry Lawley's vice president for since 1985 to 2018. And, you know, I enjoy working the issues. I'm down to earth and open-minded, and hope to be a good candidate for you in the future. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rolf Debruin, and I'm running for council. I've lived and worked in Lillooet since 2009, when Helene and I started Fort Barons Estate Winery. And this, Lillooet, is an extraordinary place. The Stockland people have known this since time immemorial, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to live, work, and serve within their traditional territory. I've been an active community member, serving on boards and working with organizations such as the Agricultural Advisory Committee of the SLRD, the Lillooet Agricultural Food Society, the Chamber of Commerce, and Tourism Lillooet. And as a councillor, I will strive towards an informed and respectful debate where we are attentive to the hopes, concerns, and needs of our community members, and where we base our decisions on solid economic, technical, and environmental facts, and where we ultimately decide on what is in the best interest of the community. There are important decisions to be made to keep Lillooet affordable, thriving, and safe. Affordable housing is a huge issue for residents and newcomers. Our municipal infrastructure is crumbling after years of neglect by prior councils. Look at our streets, our sidewalks, and imagine what the water and sewer infrastructure below looks like. To work towards affordable housing and adequate municipal infrastructure, we need to work together. My goal is to strive for ensuring affordability today while investing in a thriving community of tomorrow. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rick. I am also on the ballot as Omar Chin. My friends call me Rick. I have just arrived in Lillooet. I've been here about a year now. I left Gibson's after my ice cream shop decided to take a nosedive due to the fact that the city council there decided to have no visitors to the town, much against the rest of the citizens who are all of a tourist kind of endeavor. The reason why I'm here today is because now that I'm a new resident of this community, I would like to make sure that those decisions are never made and cause disturbances to the commerce of the local citizenry. Having said that, being on the council would also give me the ability to ensure that our laws and our agendas are passed that will allow us to keep our community safe and attract more businesses. I mean, 70 people applying for one job is not something that this town should be proud of. There is a great opportunity here, and if we open our doors and open our minds a little more, we will probably find that we will attract the kind of businesses that we are looking forward to. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Adrian Falk, and I'm running for councillor for the district of Lillooet. I've lived in Lillooet full-time for the last 29 years and am now retired, enjoying our mountains, lakes, and our small-town atmosphere. I previously worked with my partner running a log hauling company as well as the local Esso card lot and a woodlot out in Goldbridge area. I've always believed in never asking of others what you wouldn't do yourself. My reasons for running are varied, with the emphasis on local infrastructures and how they are developed and maintained, or not. I would like to see more timely and logical solutions for upkeep and growth in our community, and we must work with our residents and prospective newcomers to Lillooet and not put up barriers for our growth, be it residential, business, commercial. If Lillooet is to prosper in the future, we need a council with forward thinking for all its citizens and the ability to work cohesively with district staff and the community at large, while at the same time working with all our neighboring communities. I encourage all eligible voters to have their voice heard on October the 15th. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brent Kamenka. I'm currently a full-time resident of Lillooet, seeking election to ensure the government provides transparency and fairness to all residents. There are many important issues that need to be addressed, while many of these issues can simply, by having tax accountability, by exploring all reasonable options from local residents. The residents of Lillooet have been getting pushed aside and remain unrepresented in many facets of their lives, from ongoing blocked highway road access to loss of essential services, including the passenger train service, which is the lifeblood of any remote community. I wish to be part of a council team that will actively look at ways to keep tax dollars in the community, as an example by replacing federal and provincial sales tax and income tax with a local area access tax fund, whereby taxes are collected and used to ensure the safe travel routes to and from the community. Once the community needs are looked after, remaining funds can then be forwarded to the provincial and federal governments as available, while the same program can be applied to hospital services. Communities across Canada are starting to demand tax accountability, primarily because the governments are drawing too much from the tax base, which is stifling the economy. And the federal and provincial governments are essentially out of control with their spending and lack of accountability. And communities like Lillooet need to stand up, hold account other governments prior to sending in their earned tax dollars. This process, without question, is happening all communities across British Columbia and Canada, insomuch as our forefathers designed safety system. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Rodney Mcnary. I've grown up here my whole life. I left for a few years and I came back again over 30 years ago. I raised my family here. I'm in favor of this rec center and hospital, 100%. I think it's the lifeline of this town. And I think there needs to be some changes done, and I'd like to move Lillooet forward without too many holdbacks and take some red tape away from the program. And other than that, I don't really know what I'm getting myself into if I do get voted in, but I'm a learner. I've been a learner all my life, and I'm willing to give it a go if the people figure that I can do the job. Thank you.
My name is Andrew Nozikovski. I immigrated to Canada in 1985. I am a resident of Lillooet since 2009. I'm registered to offer the architectural services in British Columbia, and I have a business license issued by the District of Lillooet. I'm a practicing architect. I'm semi-retired, well into my retirement age, but still have to work to make ends meet. Government checks are not enough. In terms of my values, I have a respect for private and public property. I value following the rules of law, religious tolerance, and productive cooperation with all qualified people. Qualified is a word here. I hope this will guide me accordingly in my adventure as a councillor, if elected. I have over 2 decades of experience in dealing with the rezoning, development permit, variances, and building permit applications in the city of Vancouver, Richmond, Burnaby, Squamish, Lillooet Regional District, and Caribou Regional District as an applicant. In other words, I was on the other side of the counter. Now, I think my voice may be useful at the other side of the counter, being a councillor, especially in these tough economic times when people and businesses are struggling for survival, and also with respect to implementation of the existing Lillooet design guidelines. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for being here tonight. I am Janet Pike, running for council. As a number of you may know, I was born and raised in the Lillooet area. I left to earn my Bachelor of Arts and continued on to teach English in Russia. After 8 years, I returned to Lillooet with my husband and our child. It was then that I realized how much I value what is uniquely Lillooet. I am inspired every day by the people contributing their time voluntarily and otherwise to make our town a beautiful and exciting and healthy place. I too want to contribute more of my time to help lead us on a forward journey. Therefore, I stand for community and the continuity and the health of the programs and services we have, and to further support family-oriented programs, arts and culture, and our environment. I believe that a council member needs to listen and then be responsive to community needs. Nevertheless, I will always seek and promote a compassionate society. I value those who are actively working on improving our aging infrastructure, and I seek to support those with a sustainable vision. I respectfully would like to assume a position of leadership, and I am confident and I am ready to find a sustainable way forward with the council elected. I am a family person, and with the support of those nearest and with a desire to contribute to a community where my partner and I are raising our children, I am ready for the conversation to begin.
Good evening. I'm Raul Taylor. Great to see such a great crowd out here tonight. Give yourselves a pat on the back for coming out. To have such support is important. I'm new to Lillooet. I'm from Vancouver. I've got a business background, entrepreneurial pursuits, advertising, various business initiatives, and to me, really, a city is a business, and if you don't have a strong business foundation, you can't provide all the other services that you want, and that's critical. And also, you have to have a vision. And I think Lillooet has sort of been pushed aside a little bit in the tourist business, the business that brings a lot of the money and revenue in, overshadowed by Whistler and Squamish and places like that. And I think this place is a lot more beautiful than those places, and it's a precious little place, and it's my home now. And I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that we are in the forefront and that we get the tourist traffic, which is going to drive the city and help out all of these retailers and people that are that are dependent on it. So I like Brent's initiative there about the train. I think the train has to be put back on the table, because if we don't have transportation, we don't have people coming in. And so if we can work on things like that and other innovative ways of bringing people in, then we bring money from inside, into the community that we can spend on initiatives. So a lot of those things, to me, are imperative. I'm about action results. I'm not about being a career politician. I'm into doing whatever I can to help this community. So that's really where I come from. Thank you.
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Barb Webb, and I'm running for my third term as councillor for the District of Lillooet. The first time I ran for council in 2015, I knew how to fix everything and was certain it could be done quickly. Pretty sure we have a few like minds sitting up here tonight. Then we were told there was no money and we had to close the rec center. I remember thinking, wow, I didn't sign up for this. It was our new finance person's first meeting as well, and I'm pretty sure she may have been regretting taking the job. Long story short, we were misinformed. There were receivables that had not been billed or collected. There were assets. She stayed. Our finances are in good order, and that is something to be proud of. Good staff and good information are how mayor and council make decisions. Sometimes this happens more slowly than we would like. Many things the province used to take care of are now downloaded onto communities. Building codes are now provincial, but communicating and enforcing the regulations are the job of the community. Mandated changes and never-ending reporting lead to more work. Regarding the pool, as shown by the volunteer effort and amount of funds raised, this town wants the pool. Now staff, mayor, and council better make it happen. Great news, we are signing an MOU to incorporate a cultural center within our building. 20 years in the making, we are stronger together. We need to work on getting the surgical program and suite up and active, lobby for our health care, fully staffed hospital paramedics and ambulance crew. We need to work with schools to get programs to inspire our young people to train for positions in rural BC. Our hospital and recreation center are attractants for new business and will increase our population and our tax base. Look at what has been done in the past few years and vote to continue to move Lillooet forward. I ask that you go all the way to the bottom of the ballot and vote Webb. Thank you.
All right, good question. That's not one that I was expecting first off the bat. So leadership style, I would relate to, and that's actually what I had submitted to the paper for next week, is a servient leadership style. So I am here to do the job and provide for the community. I'm a mother, I'm a nurturer, so that comes naturally. Tone, I believe everybody has a role at the table and everybody has a voice and concern. And to get to a place where we can all work together to agree on how to move forward is important. Gonna leave it at that for now.
Thank you. That is a good question, and I too was not expecting that, but okay. Well, success is about dedication and seeking what the community wants or needs as a whole. So I think talking to the community is probably my strong point. Truth is I just don't know everything when I get to that council table, even though I've looked over that agenda and I've read it backwards and forwards. And sometimes I just need to go out into the community. I need to go out and find out what other people think. I need to go out, and if we're making a decision about a particular area of town, I need to go talk to the residents of those areas. I think that leadership is about talking to people, coming to the table, prepared, and yeah, I think that I have the motivational skills and leadership to be that mayor. Thank you.
Now, okay, so I think one of the biggest things is always going to come to the rec center, because without it, we will lose a lot of opportunity for other people to come here. So we need to make sure that this place is up and running and affordable to keep it running. Other than that, I can't answer because I'm not really sure of the details of the infrastructure, like the sewage and the water, whatever else is happening. So, thank you.
Thank you for the question. So I think that we definitely need pay attention to streets and sidewalks. I think there should be in the budget a line item that is funded, and each year we get back to alternating between doing sidewalks and doing streets. I think that, you know, we have a highways runs through us. They're not taking a lot of responsibility in keeping it up, and so, you know, we would interact with them trying to get the main street up to speed, and any ancillary roads that really need detail, we have to really look at the budget and figuring out ways over the long term to address those problems. Thank you.
I'm very happy that it came as the first question, because I do think it's one of the most important topics for the next 4 years or even beyond that. So the infrastructure is crumbling in Lillooet. You can see it and you hear it from council meetings. There's a lot of concern around the infrastructure. There's about $94 million worth of infrastructure that the municipal owns. $94 million. That is a lot of money, right? That's a lot of money for a small tax base like this. But that is the value of all that. So what we need to do is we need to create an inventory of what we have, when it was installed, the annual maintenance cost, when it needs to be replaced, and how much it will cost. This will create a plan for the coming years and decades to keep the infrastructure in reasonable shape and be able to meet the demands of this and the next generation. And once complete, the plan should be discussed with the community. As a community, we should determine what level of quality of services we want and how we will pay for that. And to read more about this and about my ideas and my experiences and my commitment, please visit my website, rolfdebruin.ca.
Well, in answer to that question, I think the first thing we need to do is make a long list of all the assets that are available to this community, including native assets and other local assets that are encompassed by the city of Lillooet. We should address these and see what is needed to get them to come up to standards and become a tourist attraction, thereby giving people something to look at or visit when they come to this beautiful little town. The other thing that should be addressed is the railroad station, because there is no true transport that actually brings anybody that's not in an automobile to this city. So there should be some sort of community transport that should be coming to Lillooet, bringing in tourists and other people, since the limitations of transport will be upon us very soon. Thank you.
I'd just like to say I agree with all the other candidates' comments that our infrastructure is crumbling. We do need to do an inventory. We need to figure out the most important roles, I feel, are the water and sewer. We can all get down a gravel road. I live on one, supposed to be paved. But unless we have a good water and sewer treatment plant, we won't attract any newcomers. There's one thing I'd like to see for the local people of Lillooet, though. When these jobs are upgraded, I'd like to see preferential bonus points, so to speak. Forestry used to have it for the logging industry. If a local bid on a job, he was awarded X amount of points bonus compared to an out-of-towner. We don't need another Kiewit in town. Thank you.
I think the best thing for infrastructure is we have all the capabilities in town, the contractors who know how to fix everything. They're very skilled. And I think we have to cut out all the layers of getting to those people to fix the problem. And I think what they should do is just assign to each problem and tender it out, and do what you do if you have a condominium complex, and you just tender it out, get 3 bids. And I tell you, for everything we need done here, we have the contractors that can do it. And I think if you keep it and get the money directly to the contractors and try to cut out the middlemen of the government trying to discuss it, then I think we have more than enough money. And I think there's enough people here that can do it. And I think it just cut out the middlemen, and that's the government. Anyway, that's my thought.
The infrastructure is definitely going downhill here. I'm not too sure how a person would deal with it. We have to stay within the rules and our budgets. But at the same time, I agree with Brett that there is in-house contractors that can deal with most of this stuff properly. And I have to learn a little bit more about that. I haven't considered that really hard. It is failing for sure, and I'll do my best to try to figure out how to go about it properly. And that's what I think about that.
Well, my position is that, first of all, we need to know what we need. It is necessary to provide inventarization of what we have and prepare a master plan of infrastructure based on existing community plan, OCP, official community plan. Because we have along, for example, along Main Street, a 12-meter height of the buildings allowed. At present, most of the buildings are single-story, well, a couple of two-story buildings in the central part. The infrastructure has to be designed for a 12-meter, which is 3-story buildings. Thank you.
I would like to echo what Rolf Debruin has already shared about this issue. I think growing up in this town, you tend to turn a blind eye to all the aging infrastructure around you, and you just kind of accept it as it is. But I do believe that we need to work with those who are already working on the infrastructure issues and help them and support them with a sustainable vision.
Thank you. The roads are critical. Without the roads, we can't go anywhere. We can't get anything in. A lot of the time it's failing because of landslides, etc. But the roads themselves, that we need to look at better technology because they seem to be never-ending work projects. So that maybe we don't have to replace them all the time. That might be an idea to look at. The train is another idea, so that we're not stuck if if that transportation is down. The water system is another one that's something critical that we have to look at. I know there's deep division in the community on that, but you have to do cost-benefit analysis on every project, every item, and forget about your loyalties and do what's right for the city and not what's right for special interests. So those are critical things to look at, and I think we can do it if we all want to work together. And forget about our, doing things that might be in the special interest category.
Well, I know that we've finished our OCP. It's completed and done. I know at the last council meeting we set some money aside to do some asset management. I also know from UBCM that every small community, rural community, has the same issues with aging infrastructure. Roads are being fixed by bagged asphalt and sticking up a bump sign. Everything that we do here, we have our water treatment plant. Now we need to figure out how to make it work and how to maintain it. A lot of things years ago were built and done without the thought to maintain. Everything that happens to our infrastructure depends on what's in the reserve funds, and we do put money in there every year, and what's available for grants. It always comes down to the dollars and cents. Thank you.
Thank you. As with most communities in BC, our infrastructure is 50 to 60 years old. But before the government grants us any money to replace infrastructure, they want to know that we've got a plan in place to look after ourselves moving forward. And that plan is the asset management plan. It consists of all our assets, when they need to be replaced, and how much we need to put away so the government doesn't have to provide that money ever again. Our asset management plan is 75% finished. It will be completed by the end of next month. And then we need a shovel-ready project. So if we take a project like Russell Street, which has been on our agenda for a long time, when the next intake comes around, we'll be ready. And I've talked to other small communities, and they have this plan in place, and they're receiving grants for their infrastructure because they had an asset managed plan ready. It's our turn. We're next.
Yeah, to echo what both Lori and Barb have stated, lucky for the rest of the councillors up here that we did approve funds to fund that asset management plan and that we are in the second stage of that. So I am proud of this current council for that. Roadways, pipes, sewer pipes, everything that's in the ground needs to be looked at in a holistic way because if we're going to replace the pipes, we might as well do the roads and the sewer pipes at the same time when we're digging so we're not continually digging up the ground. The one major thing that needs to be looked at, the water treatment plant, and it is in our water source strategy report, that Seton intake area needs to be moved so we are not continually having sediment come into the plant and ruining our filter systems. And we need to do that before we can get any more development or any other things done. So that's my number one. And also to have that done, it increases our wildfire protection. So.
Well, great question. I have grandchildren now, so I'm looking to the future, and I know that the hub of the children growing up is sports and education, and I know that the rec center itself is the most valued asset for that. I believe that schools and hockey and all those outdoor events that we have here contribute to it, and I support any endeavors that help develop children. Thank you. And just one other thing, I live on Russell Street, so I'll have to recluse myself from a vote on that.
Yeah, thanks for that question. There's lots going on for children and families in this town. We have lots of assets, the rec center being an important one. And I think with the rec center, there is much more that we can do with the center as it is, working with schools, whether or not it's the high school or the elementary schools, to bring the kids here for programs, whether or not it's swimming or whether or not it's kayaking classes or other things that will keep them fit and healthy. With regard to childcare, I think there's going to be a lot more that can be done. We have childcare providers in town, but we don't have enough spaces. The BC government has announced that there's going to be programs coming for that, and I think we need to work with the BC government to create those spaces in our town so that we have adequate childcare. Thank you.
Regarding the library and the children of this city, we should definitely increase the library's ability to look after the younger ones in our community, seeing it's the most centralized place that they do come. The sports arena as well should be given top priority in getting teams together so that the young people do have something to do in their time off, as well as allowing those of us who are looking to increase our education facilities to do so.
I'd just like to point out that this rec center was built on an awful lot of volunteers, and we're still getting a lot of volunteers working here with programs with the children, but we also have to think about their health. We want to keep this hospital open. We want to keep the medical center open. And I'd like to see TRU putting on some more courses here for all people, all ages, to educate some of our youth that are graduating in the coming years for children's programs, teachers. We can do the first year here, TRU tells me, on a registered university program on a limited basis. Thank you.
I think the very most important thing when it comes to youth sports and community children is every community I've ever been involved with. I've organized triathlons for 25 years and visited communities all over North America. And I just found that the community with the strongest background or financial strong community then can support these. So I think the important thing is to get the community financially strong so you can look after these very important family programs. It all comes part and parcel to the community. So that's why I get back to the tax accountability. We have to bring the government under control, get more money back in the community, and then we can look after the things that are important to us. That's about it.
I think the library is a pretty important program in this rec center, but I think this rec center is a very important program for our youth. I raised 5 children here. I have grandchildren here, and I think we have to support this building 100%, and whatever it's going to take to deal with it, I think we need to consider it very strongly, and we have to look at the situation and figure out what we can do and do it from there. Thanks.
I'd like to mention outdoor sports, typical Canadian outdoor sports which need reactivation and some investment of time and organization. I'm talking hiking, canoeing, kayaking, horseback riding, including 3-day trips, which used to be here in Lillooet, organized several years ago. Kids needs to be outdoors. They need to be interested in outdoor sports. On October meeting of the Rod and Gun Club, we discussed these issues and are ready to participate. Thank you.
With children entering the different programs in this town, I am grateful for what is available in our town. But I do see a great potential. And I think that the council has a responsibility to find funds and help those organizers of different programs in town to find the funding that they need, whether it is grants or money that the district already has.
The library is essential, especially in small towns. I think where the education is failing is that they're not focusing anymore on reading, writing, and arithmetic, the basics that we grew up with. So it's this digital age now, and a lot of kids can't read. They're falling short. So I think those should be the main focus, and then we can have other programs as well. But if they can't do the basics, then we've failed them. That's really that's why the library is so important, and books are so important. Those are you get ideas from books. You learn things. It's an amazing resource that you can't just get online. So the library should be supported at all costs.
Well, I've been here 16 years, and I've seen a lot of growth in our library. They've gone from story time in the morning to e-readers, a literacy program, so many things going through there, some computer training. I've often thought I should go down there because I could use that, Computers for Dummies or something. I really believe that the busier you keep our youth, the less problems we'll have with opioids and alcohol. When we first came here, all I heard about was hockey. Now I see with the pool, like they had kayaks in the pool. We're training our own lifeguards. They've got jiu-jitsu starting. I'm not sure if that's how you say that. But with the proper programs, we can make this facility work, including the library. They do such a great job.
Thank you. Well, I have to start with the rec center too. With the library, the area, the arena, the pool, the weight room, and out in the lawn, the movie nights, the playgrounds. I'm so grateful to have been lucky enough to raise my children in Lillooet. And we have the motocross racing over at the rodeo grounds, which I was very surprised and happy to hear that the rodeo grounds have a use again. And again, I think Lillooet is a real family community in all ways. And again, I'm grateful to have raised my kids here. Thank you.
So we're obviously seeing some of the effects of underfunding and not having program accessibility over the last, I would say 10 to 15 years. We have young adults who were once children of this community that are dying from opioid overdoses. And so it is critical that we start looking at funding these programs and looking at ways to have organizations work together to bring the accessibility piece in for not just families of Lillooet, but for families who live all over the Northern Statlium Territory. The rec center, obviously, with the MOU signing this week, and carrying forward and seeing the evolution of our rec center combined with the Statlium Culture Center, and seeing how that goes for everyone. So.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Good, okay. So I just want to say that there's so many great programs, but I think we could do better. Ensuring programs are sustainable is huge, and as far as families going is, somehow trying to work with or promote, like, for example, carried programs or ECE programs through TRU at our local TRU department would keep single moms home, single dads home. They could do their courses in the community. Their kids don't have to go anywhere. Definitely cheaper to live here. Encouraging more young people to volunteer actively with the wonderful elders that are volunteering currently, or not elders, but active participants, and trying to push the government for that $10 a day childcare, somehow bringing that into our community in some sort of building that we may already have. So, a couple ideas. And the food bank is great.
Thank you for that question. And you can't hear me. Can you hear me? Hello, hello. Yeah, with regard to those funds that are sitting there, I can't speak to them too specifically, but I imagine that a number of those funds are tied to reserves that the district has built up over the years. There's reserves to replace a number of different things. So it's not as if those funds are just sort of sitting there free to spend, or I cannot imagine that it is that way. Like I said, but I'm not very privy to all the requirements that are tied to those funds. And but what I do think that we need to do is indeed look at our finances, whether or not those reserves are, even though that they may sound really nice and cozy, with $94 million of infrastructure, we need a lot of those reserves in order to maintain that in the future. Thank you.
We should investigate what we do have and what we have weighed against it, thereby seeing what we will have left to spend on those other projects that do need improvement. We need to keep the things that we have going and not frivolously spend on things that are not yet ready. Thank you.
I don't know quite how to put this, but I think the district of Lillooet, pardon me, needs to run more like a business. It has to make sense economically, and it has to make sense for our community. If we do get grants, I think they should go to the bonus programs for new infrastructure, but I think our money should be put to fixing what we have, not developing more at this point.
I agree. Yeah, that's good. I think what needs to happen is we have to determine how much money is going out of the community through federal and provincial programs and how much is coming back, and make a determination on that. And I think getting into the situation when you're always trying to get grants, getting handouts from the governments and so on, I think that's not a really good long-term plan, because eventually the provincial and federal governments will just put the squeeze on us and we get kind of left holding the bag with not the infrastructure we want. So I think we just have to make an inventory of how much money we have coming in and how much going out, and make a determination based on that, and that'll give us the strength to push back with the federal government and what have you, and figure out what to do with the money. So that's just an idea.
Well, first of all, I had a hard time understanding the question because it's hard to hear up here. But I know one thing, with the money we have available and what they're talking about, I think it's up to council and the mayor and the district to decide where they want to spend that money and how much money they can allot for each side of it. I do agree with Adrian, you have to run it like a business and make a plan. And hopefully if the elected people get in, they can get together and make a proper plan for the whole thing. And that's, you got to figure it out as you go, and you got to figure out how much money you actually have to spend and where you want to spend it. Thanks.
I agree with Randy. We need to know where we are, first of all, and we need to have a plan in order to know what to spend it for, and to have a plan on the basis of which we can apply for grants. Thank you.
These two questions go hand in hand. You can't have a safe and friendly children's programs without a safe infrastructure. It's very important for us to look at our budget, make a plan, and then see how we can carry it out effectively. As I know that working in town at different nonprofits, it is very difficult to find the people that can carry out the jobs that are open to them, to the public. And it's partly to do with difficulty to live and only having part-time jobs available. So we need the district to help make this a feasible option.
As I previously mentioned, I think all programs, initiatives have to have cost-benefit analysis done on them to see how much is of a return we're getting, whether it's a good investment or not, and maybe even having a referendum, having the public weigh in as to, that's a real democracy in action, isn't it? And then we decide what is the best way to deal with it. And that way we get a lot of dialogue, a lot of discussion, and a lot of options out there, people bringing forward their expertise and their ideas. And it may be that the idea is not very good at all, but if it doesn't involve the public, then we're just operating in a vacuum here. And we may make bad decisions that the town is saddled with forever. So I think we have to be very careful when we have a lot of money. A lot of money can be dangerous.
Well, I'm just thinking, wouldn't it be nice to have all that money sitting in the bank just waiting for us to write a check? It's not the way it works. You have to look after your reserve funds. You have to look after the infrastructure that's depleting and deteriorating, and you better make sure you've got something to fall back on. You also have to have money or an asset to leverage some of these grants. Some of them are 50-50, some of them are 20-40, some of them are 100%. Those are great ones when you get them. I don't want to see us go back to where we were. You need to close the rec center.
Thank you. So 12 million last year. A lot of that, because that was an abnormal year, and actually it usually sits around about 7 or 8 million. So 4 million of that amount of money comes from taxation, and that includes the water, sewer, garbage. We get that in July, and that lasts us and has to last us until June. So we don't have any more money coming in during that time. And last year, I was trying to think off the top of my head, but I know we had a COVID relief fund there. We moved some reserves to pay off the capital projects that we wanted to. We spent 1.1 million on the rec center on a refrigeration unit. We spent 1 million on a 7th Avenue drain. There was a projected grant for Russell Street for $2 million, which we didn't get, so it goes in. It looks like it's part of that 12 or 13 million and then comes out. So, I mean, okay, my time's up. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, going into budget season, it's not, I can tell you anybody on this table going into budget season, it's not what you expect. We go in with an operating budget and a projects budget, and we do project for certain projects, and what's typically been happening is some of those projects are not getting done for one reason or another, whether it be we don't have the staff to do it, we don't get the grants, and on and on and on. But going into the next budget season, what I would like to bring to the table is to try and go back to the basics and fund those reserves for the water, sewer, and roadways, and get some of these issues dealt with. We have the reports on what needs to be looked at. The asset management plan is coming, and that will also help. Yeah, I'm going to go with that because I'm going to choke again.
So it's an awful lot of money and a lot of stuff that I don't know yet. But I do think that somehow if Interior Health was able to work with the District of Lillooet and somehow we could create some incentive to bring more physicians or more mental health youth counselors to our community, which would benefit both our youth and our families as a whole, and it would keep everybody safe and hopefully keep our hospital running the way it should be right now. There's got to be a little chunk of money in there that makes somebody happy. Especially to come here and live here for, 5-10 years, make some sort of commitment to us. And maybe they would fall in love the way we have.
I believe that legislatively the municipality has to run a balanced budget. So in order to do that, things have to be in place and there has to be a little bit of reserve. Municipal Finance Authority is there in case we get into trouble and we need to borrow. There's federal funding that comes out periodically, and if you have ready-made projects, you might be able to get in there and get a good swath of money if you have some reserve. Thanks.
Recycling. One of the things that happen with manufactured goods is there is no return for the products and their packaging once they're manufactured. We should probably concentrate on the returns, getting the returns back to the recycling station, having a recycling station here in Lillooet. There's one outside the little grocery store up the hill, but there needs to be something else done with the steel and all the other recyclable materials that are here, and that recycling those materials helps reduce the use of energy, thereby causing climate change to be greatly reduced because of the lack of greenhouse gases needed to produce new products. If we recycle the products as much as possible, you'll save a lot of money.
I think the one thing that the District of Lillooet could do is get the blue box system and the composting boxes out to all its citizens. Every other week, do pickup. Most communities have the blue box program, and although I can go to the dump and I can recycle, I don't get paid for it. You wouldn't get paid for the blue box donations either. But there's a lot of people that can't get up to the garbage dump to take their recycles up there, and they just go in the garbage in the pit. It's disgusting what's down there.
Yeah, I'm not, couldn't quite understand the question, but climate change, that's a religion, so I won't comment on it. Sorry.
I'm not sure about the climate change, but I do know that it is definitely getting hotter around and whatnot. And you can have a look at Lytton. I think there should be a fire a fire suppression plan put into place around here, because Lytton's having quite a problem cleaning up after they burnt down, and that's quite environmentally disaster there, actually. And I think we should have a good, strong look at the environment for Lillooet in a fire protection plan like Logan Lake had and whatnot. Thank you.
Again, I agree with Randy. Plus, we have to understand the proportions of what Lillooet as a district can do in improving climate change and all the things which are happening around. Fires in BC, forest fires in BC, are probably responsible for 99% of climate change, not District of Lillooet. Whether we segregate our garbage and recycling, it may help, but it's absolutely negligible compared to forest fires. Thank you.
Climate change is a huge conversation, and it's often overwhelming. I think that it would be incredible if our town could be a more self-sustaining town, that we could focus more on the agriculture that is available around us, that we could focus more on the businesses that can support us, and then somehow to get more subsidized services so that it is more available to those of lower income or of all ranges in this community. And this is a good option.
Well put. I think self-sufficiency is the way to go. Then we don't have to truck everything in and out, and we make our own money here and create our own income. Climate change, as to how much we are responsible for it, is very unknown. It's probably infinite. It's very tiny, minuscule as to how we are contributing to that. And it seems to be a worldwide religion now that's a control system that's going around in every aspect of our lives. And I think climate change in the end will probably be more economically destructive versus being beneficial. So we have to be careful not to fall into that trap. And be more resourceful. That's the answer. I don't think we need to put on all these controls, because that's going to probably make us impoverished more than it is going to save the climate.
Boy, that's a heavy subject, that one. I don't know how I actually feel about it. I know from sitting on the SLRD board that the Lillooet landfill was a large contributor to lowering the emissions in the whole Squamish-Lillooet Regional District. And that is something to be proud of. I know our First Nations had a cooling center at the Legion, and that's also, thank them for their help. We should do it more often, but I think we need to be self-sufficient somehow, look for food security, because Area A was shut off from landslides when the roads were closed, where they were actually helicoptering in food supplies and prescriptions. So I think that should be on the top of our list.
Thank you. I think we're all starting to see the value and fun in electric bikes, especially around town. We still have no way to properly dispose of the batteries, but I think we're going to get there. And I think every little bit helps. And I know that planting our own gardens reduce the pesticides and fertilizer from store-bought foods and vegetables. And planting trees and hedges suck out huge amounts of carbon out of the atmosphere. But as a district, I think our bylaws, I think we can realign for watering and easier permitting to also make our homes more airtight and efficient as well. And I think that those little steps are doable for all of us. Thank you.
So I think the question was, do I support an increase in the education of climate change, if I got that correct? So yes, I do support that. Some of the ways that we can do that right off the bat, obviously I'm going to do a pitch for our Fire Smart program. We have free assessments right now, so go get your free house assessment done. Water use education, putting in a proper pedestrian plan, including sidewalks, biking and foot traffic trails. And then obviously food sustainability is a big one, and I have been working with our SILGA executive with the Minister of Agriculture and promoting a more local food map for the interior of British Columbia.
I think we're really far behind in this area. I feel like we could be composting, huge. There's a huge composting place in Lytton that wouldn't cost too much to truck our compost there as well. We're small, but I think we have quite a footprint. Our hospital, you know, there's no recycling. There's no recycling at our doorsteps. So what are we doing? We should be like getting it together with the rest of BC. Growing up in a home where you reduce, reuse, and recycle, like I can remember in my generation, this was like songs on TV, like everyone can remember the characters, I'm sure. Sustainable structures that aren't going to break down. We're not going to have to rebuild them or reface them or bury them in a hole. I just think there's more we can do. Curbside to start.
Well, I agree that on the local level, we can, you know, as individuals, have less consumption. I think that it's a very difficult thing for a municipality to get in and make any true change, because you're dealing with individuals that are, you know, living up to collection and all that, but they still consume. Population's going up. The last time that I plowed down to Whistler on a train with a snowplow was 2003, so that's 20 years where the railway didn't plow. So, but I agree, anything we can do, anything new that comes in, I'm up for it.
Yeah, climate change is a important topic, I think, for our area. If you look past to the last 18 months, where we have seen the effects of it, but our role is fairly small in mitigating it. But we can still do our part, and we should do our part. So in that sense, I think what we can do is create an inventory of our greenhouse gas emissions for the community and for the district, and then see where the best bang for our buck is to reduce those emissions. Is it in recycling? Is it in home heating? I don't know, but I think we should do that inventory. The other side of the coin is that we do need to look at climate adaptation. We may do our little part, but we need to be more resilient to wildfires, the heat domes, slides and floods that impact our roads, our community. We need to look at how we can be more resilient and not be at the whims of those things. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is it working? Yes? Okay. Yes, because we've just signed a memorandum of agreement, I think that this rec center is going to take on a whole new life. And I believe that, you know, we really have made some serious steps in friendship and respect, talking, and I'd like to see that continue. Thank you.
All right. So to the first question, a stoplight at the Reynolds. I wouldn't necessarily go as far as a stoplight, but I have, when our CAO was first new to the job, did discuss with him about a flashing green light. I think that would definitely help. As far as Town Creek and Dickey Creek, our water source strategy does support putting, I think it's Town Creek, online. And the other part of that question I don't fully understand, so I will not answer it.
Thank you. So the stoplight, I think there's a few places in Lillooet that we need to really have an assessment on, and I think one of the new places is going to be Jones Market and that little intersection, because it goes right across from the kids coming down the school trail and going to that little store and then across to the rec center. I think that's something that we really need to look at. Yeah, I'm super happy that Town Creek is on, you know, our radar. It should have never been taken off our radar for water. So I'm looking forward to that and any other water sources that we can have. And what the revenue that would happen, I would think that most of that revenue would have to be staying within our water plan with our water treatment plant. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Bobby Joe. I was thinking a stoplight would be great in town. It'd make way more sense for our kids when they have to go do their driver's test in Kamloops.
I think that Town Creek's great, and if we can bring it online, that's fine. It was 25-year moratorium put on that by the Interior Health. The Forestry and Interior Health went up there and had a look at it. So I think we're probably halfway through that. There may be a chance, if we talk to them nicely, that they might rescind part of the time. But, and the other question is whether or not at this point we need to bring Town Creek on at all.
Just on the traffic light, I think in general signage can be much improved, and I think we should work with MOTI in order to make those signs more clear. There's still tourists that are doing UEs on Station Hill where they should not be doing UEs. So signage down at the bottom of Station Hill, at the top of Station Hill. I'm a great supporter of looking at Main Street. We have a 4-lane highway running through our little town. I would love to see that to be down to 2 lanes with a median with some trees so that you don't have to sprint across 4 lanes in order to get to your post office box or to the Jones Market or things. Thank you.
I think we should look at the high accident risk of those areas and apply traffic lights, not just by the Reynolds, but there are several other places I've found in town where the Road Traffic Act is being constantly violated. But also on the selling of the water, it might be something that the town should look into, because the price of water these days is now exceeding the price of gasoline in some places. So it might be a good option to look at.
Mike. I'd like to say if anyone thinks we can sell our water, I think the district should do it.
What was the question? That was a traffic light, but...
Traffic light in Dickey Creek, Town Creek.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I kind of like the fact that Lillooet doesn't have any traffic lights, so perhaps I'd even go so far as to say I like the old angled parking where you drive in and turn at an angle, and that was part of our history because they had to turn the wagons around. Having the 2 lanes going each way is, I don't know, problematic, but that's, you know, we could discuss that at future meetings, I guess.
Okay, now I understand the questions. The traffic lights, I think, is a waste of time. It's a waste of money and resources. As far as the Dickey Creek and Town Creek water system, I think we have to consider what we can do with that for a fire suppression for this town. We have to consider a fire suppression so we don't burn down.
About traffic lights, please remember that Main Street is part of provincial highway. And any traffic lights on provincial highway are quite a disturbance. So I would be voting at present time because the density of the traffic is such that it's not necessary, to my opinion. Thank you.
I was actually just driving through that Reynolds T cross, and I was wondering why we hadn't had a stoplight there. And then it kind of occurred to me that there, as Andrew has already shared, there's really not enough traffic to warrant that. But I would like to hear a conversation put forward about why you consider that a point of interest.
I like the idea of not having a traffic light because everyone, you know, if you have all these traffic lights, everyone's just relying on these traffic lights, and then when there's someone doesn't follow it, there's an accident. So if people are on their wits, you know, when they're driving around, I think you have less accidents. Yeah, I would be in favor of just keeping it the way it is. The only thing is the counter to that argument is that you have tourists, right, that are kind of, you know, driving through there, and they don't, you know, they probably don't know the drill, or they're not as used to it as we are. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but overall, less traffic lights I think are better.
Okay, 2-part question. Town Creek, I was glad to see that it was on our water plan. It was the top one that was most feasible and economical to bring online at some point. So was pleased to see that. It'll be all about the finances. It took me, let's see, I'm going to say 18 months on the Ministry of Transport meetings, and we may this fall get better lighting on the crosswalk at the IDA. So as far as getting a stoplight or any kind of lighting down there, I highly doubt it's going to happen anytime soon. And I kind of wonder if they have spies or something, because they really knew that a lot of people did not use that crosswalk to go to the post office.
Thank you. That's a good question. I have a huge project that I've been working on for the past 5 years, and that project is to provide a new medical clinic, assisted living, and a new nursing residence. I'm working with BC Housing, Interior Health, and hopefully a new council that will support this idea. It's far too complex to explain in 1 minute, but there will be more in next week's paper. We need to encourage new builds. We need to redefine our zoning. We need to streamline red tape. And the bottom line is housing is my passion, and I will always work towards it in whatever capacity. Thank you.
So, yes, I'm well aware of the housing issue. I worked in the RE/MAX real estate office when it was still here for 2 years, and I saw that we had developers and people wanting to build, and when they would pick up the phone, call the district office to have answers, there was nobody there to answer those questions. And that is one of the first things that I brought forward to our strategic planning with this council. And out of that discussion, we have a planning department now. We have a part-time director of planning and an assistant, and as much as that red tape is frustrating for people, we have years of bylaws and policy that we are still reviewing and need to get streamlined, like Councillor Hopful said.
Definitely a problem. I don't know much about the red tape, but I do know that it's definitely a problem, and I think that we need to get those investors back, and we need to get those people, developers back, and we need to get people interested again in coming here to build, and we need lots of smaller, average income homes available to all of our, middle-class working families, as well as low-income families, as well as high-income families. Everybody needs a place here. And if we get more people, then we get to spread our taxes out and maybe they won't go up, right?
Yeah, we've got new buildings coming in town presently. We need to support those buildings. We have people that have left town because they couldn't find a place to stay. I think one of the solutions is East Lillooet. I think that there's lots of properties over there that are large, that are underutilized. I think that there has to be a way of using a cistern system to meet fire code, and also to supply water for families that want to build on lots over there. And I think that in the future, once we tap into Town Creek and have Cayush online, we've got enough water to fill our very finite district with affordable homes.
Joanne, thanks for raising that topic. Yeah, the lack of the affordable housing is one of the most cited issues by not just our community members, but also for those teachers, nurses, plumbers, contractors, and doctors looking to move to Lillooet. The demand for housing is huge, as was outlined in the housing needs assessment done in 2021, particularly for smaller studio and one-bedroom units. But there's little available and even less that is affordable. And we have to create more opportunity for housing mobility within Lillooet, looking for opportunities to welcome multifamily housing developments to our town. Additional housing will expand our tax base and will help to pay for maintaining our municipal infrastructure and essential services. And to encourage new development, we have to remove obstacles. Our building bylaw needs revision to avoid undue burdens that prevent new developments. And we also need to avoid inconsistencies in bylaw enforcement. District staff should work collaboratively with residents, business owners, contractors, and developers to avoid and solve problems. No more stop work orders.
Having been in construction for some of my life, I realized that one doesn't get anything built without incentives. There needs to be incentives for these developers to come in here and actually want to put up a building. I hear this town has a lot of red tape involved with construction. We were just tabled the conversation on whether there would be 3 or 4 stories buildings allowed on Main Street. A 4-story structure can house 2 levels of apartments with office structures below, more than a 3-story building. So one should really look at what you're putting up and what it contains on the main street if that's where they need to be built.
I think zoning is one of our problems as well as all of the red tape. We need to be more universal in the areas that are zoned. I live on a road that you can have a 3-acre minimum split, and someone else up the road has a 5-acre minimum split. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think with respect to development, for Lillooet, it's really a market supply and demand, and obviously the demand is huge right now. And the number one thing is to reduce red tape and make it easier for developers to come in and do something, because there's lots of available land, and it really comes down to the government. We'll have to be proactive in getting rid of red tape. Otherwise, people will not. They'll just go elsewhere, and they're doing it. I mean, there's builders all over BC, and they'll come here and build and sell if there's an environment conducive to that. And that's all there is to it. There's no other way to fix it.
I agree with Ralph and Brett on the whole program here. We have to reduce the red tape and make it investment friendly for people to build some infrastructure for us. And I think it's to our advantage. We don't need up our personal taxes. We need to broaden our tax base, and then we can go from there.
On the same topic, the situation at present is that 22 units, residential units, are held for several months in limbo by the provincial archaeological department. I'm talking the lot across the post office. Now, 10 units, very modest, I would say, non-conforming, are at 341 Main Street, which are boarded up by the district. 6 residential rental units are under construction at former Jones Market. Fortunately, this is outside the jurisdiction of the archaeological department. So we are proceeding with this construction. I think we need to do much more, and this is why I'm running for council. Thank you.
I came back to Canada right when the housing crisis skyrocketed out of control, and I understand that I am not able to own a house at this time, but I think it is also horrific that the people who own land are set back. They have the time, they have the energy to apply for the permits. They know what they want, but they are continually forced back. And I feel like this is a horrific problem, and we need to do something. And I would like to do as much as I can with the power that I have in council.
I think that zoning and density is the only way to offer affordable housing incentives for builders to provide that type of housing. Otherwise, it can be very cost prohibitive for a municipality to get into that game. So those incentives have to be there, and you have to zone certain areas, and I think that's the only way, because housing just doesn't magically appear. So that's my take on it.
Yes, I think all across Canada there's a housing crisis. It's not just here in Lillooet. I do believe that we have multifamily dwellings coming, and it's not going to solve the whole problem. And we have to really work with the province. They have so much jurisdiction over what we can and cannot do in a small rural town. And when you're doing the multifamily dwellings, you also have to think about what it's going to cost you if you need to buy a new fire truck with a ladder, because we don't have one. So all those things have to come into consideration with the building and with the approvals, and the archaeological studies they do, they hold us up forever for developers to move forward.
Yes. Plain and simple.
Don't know
Just say yes.
I don't know enough about it, so I don't know enough about it, so I can't comment.
Okay, I don't know what's going on there and what the Bridge River Trust Association is, but I'd be willing to try to understand what's going on with it, and then I can give an answer on it.
Well, I don't really know what we are talking about here. I never heard about it.
Russ, if I get elected, I want you to tell me about it. Thanks.
Can any of us answer? I'm fully in favor of it. I talked to Bob Sheridan about it yesterday down at the mall, and yes, it needs to move forward. There is BC Hydro money given to absolutely everybody for what they do in and around our community, and none of it has come back to Lillooet. So yes, the Bridge River Trust needs to move forward.
Yes, I know a little bit about the Bridge River Trust, and I fully support it as well. We do need that money. It would help our infrastructure. It would help so many projects that we have. I know that Peter Bussey was working on it and spent quite a bit of time on it, along with Bob Sheridan, and I believe they went to Kamloops, had meetings on it. So should I be elected, I would spend a lot of time with Mr. Bussey, finding out all the information and where it's left off, because I do support it. Thank you.
So, yes, absolutely. The Bridge River Lillooet Trust is something that this community does need to push forward with. There has been work done on it over the years. I don't know what is wrong with this mic. And sitting on the Northern Economic Initiative Trust, which was funded by a lump sum of money, I have seen and been a part of the decision making on how to go forward improving economics in Northern BC, which we right now are currently a part of, but it would be nice to have that for our area. So yes.
That's a maybe. So the Bridge River Lillooet Trust, I had the good fortune of being down in Vancouver when the presentation was made to the Premier on that, and the Premier's answer was that at that point they were dealing with the Statlium Nation hydro monies, and that they thought that the Bridge River Lillooet Trust was a very good idea and would be something in the future that we should go after, so I think it's money well spent.
I look forward to learning more about this initiative trust, and based on the information that I have at that point and being more fully informed, I will make an opinion.
If it's good for the community, I'm all for it.
Absolutely. Taxation accountability is my #1 goal. And I think that absolutely we should look at ways of cutting off federal money going through, even through sales tax on fuel, and putting that in the community. And I'm all in favor of lowering taxes on every level. So however we can do that legally, I want to work with the council that'll do that. So absolutely. From land taxes, especially fuel taxes. The fuel taxes are insane, and it's just choking the economy. So we definitely have to, as a community, come together and figure out how we're going to get all of this under control for sure.
I am definitely in favor of lowering taxes. I'm not in favor of upping the taxes. How we go about that, we have to look at our financial situations, and after that we could make a plan. I don't know how to answer your last question, how we can figure out to do it, or how we can do it right now, but if it's a question and people like that question, I think we should have a look at it as if the council gets voted in and try to deal with that. I'm totally in favor of stuff like that.
Property taxes this year, in my case, went 36% up. The house is 1 year older, it needs fresh coat of paint, and I don't know where this 36% is coming from. It is coming from British Columbia Assessment Authority, which is Crown Corporation. So who is really cranking up inflation? I really don't know. But it comes to the point where we will have to really scramble and save the whole year to pay our property taxes. Thank you.
I would love to lower taxes and make life more affordable, but I also understand that this town needs programs and it needs services, and I do not know how we can support it without the help and the hard work of our citizens, and that's my opinion.
Tax decreases, I think, would be very beneficial in certain sectors to entice investment. That's really important for jobs. It's also important, for growing the economy. As far as the taxes, property taxes, that needs to be revisited. I don't know where these increases are coming from, or maybe rebates of some sort, just to give people a break, because the costs of living is very high right now, and it's going to keep getting higher, unfortunately. So some relief there needs to be given. Otherwise, we're all going to be financially strapped. So I'm in favor of that.
Well, I wish we could find a place to live where we didn't have to pay taxes. I'd be the first one on the bus. There hasn't been one person sitting at this table that did not want to support our infrastructure, our roads, the programs that we want to give to our children, and so on and so forth. And I don't know how you would do that without your property taxes. It's no different than paying school tax. I have never had a child go to school in BC, but I pay school taxes every year.
Thank you. I think that our taxes, I am that counselor that sits at the table talking about the tax increase, and I try to keep it at 2%. I fight if it's at 3%, and if it's any higher, I am the one that consistently drives everybody crazy by talking about it. So I think we have to remember too that our tax base is 1,457 tax revenue, including our businesses. 1,016 is single family residents, and we have a lot of needs for a lot of people for our community. So again, I think we need to realign our budget. We need to think outside the box and find innovative ways that Lillooet can continue to have the things that we need without raising taxes over and above the norm. Thank you.
Yeah, so to reiterate what Laurie has said, we do typically budget for a 2% increase, which is in line with inflation usually. This upcoming budget season for everyone at this table will be interesting because inflation this year is around 7%, and that is actually projected to take up to or over 8 years to come back down. So good luck funding infrastructure and services and everything that this community wants by lowering taxes. Do we keep it affordable to this community? Yes. And it's going back, like I said earlier, going back to the basics and relooking what the operating costs and the project costs are, and maybe we don't do project costs for a while because we cannot continually have a handout. Yes, it's nice to have shovel-ready projects for grants, but we cannot count on those all the time. So it's a very fine line.
We will not get anything that we want if we don't do something. And by something, I mean keep it as it is and go a little bit higher. It has to happen. It's got to. Until we have more people in our community, it's like a chicken and an egg. What are we going to do? You sit the way it is, nothing changes, the taxes don't change. Or we fix things up, make it better, and then more people will come. Isn't that the old movie? If we build it, they will come.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think that, unfortunately, it's a reality that there has to be, every once in a while, a tax increase. And, I understand compound interest, and after 7 years, you're up there, paying double almost. But I think that if we want to maintain our structures and our roads and all that sort of stuff, we have to, at certain times, raise taxes. It's just a reality.
Yeah, I think you raise a very good point, and that is the cost of living and the increase of that, which is making our lives a lot more challenging than in the decades before, where we had minimal inflation. We really didn't have to worry about things. But the cost of living is also increasing for the district. Your fuel went up, their fuel went up just as much. So the snow plow is going to be more expensive to operate this year because the fuel has gone up. So instead of just looking at taxes, I think what we have to look at is making this community more resilient in terms of cost of living. And that means creating good paying jobs where pay raises are a possibility as things go and become more expensive, and making sure that your wallet is full and that you can pay your taxes. And indeed, I do agree with my two colleagues here on my right, is that it is probably a reality that in order to maintain our infrastructure, that we're all going to have to bear a little bit of that burden.
Moratorium on taxes until our economy recovers. We should also be paying at the till. What you see is what you pay. This hidden GST, PST nonsense has gone on too long. The money that we keep sending to Ottawa is not benefiting us. It's going to pay high salaries to politicians that really don't care what's going on in our communities. We need to keep our money here in our community.
I think we should all take into account that our taxes have not only gone up because the district will need some more money, our taxes have gone up because our assessments have gone up because of supply and demand. Unfortunately, your home is only worth that $700–800 million bracket if you want to sell. And most of us want to stay here. So I think we're all going to have to buckle down and just pay a little bit more.